Howdy, here we move on to part 3. When we're looking at strategic alliances, they can happen for both business level and corporate level strategic reasons. So a business level cooperative strategy is a strategy through which firms combine some of their resources to create a competitive advantage by competing in one or more product markets. If they're really working for a product or a service to sell or deliver that together, this would be business level. With business level cooperative strategies, we may see complementary strategic alliances that can be either vertical or horizontal, competition response strategies, uncertainty reducing strategies, and also competition reducing strategies. We'll talk about each of these. So with a complementary strategic alliance, we would combine partner firms' assets in complementary ways to create new value. This may include distribution, supplier, or outsourcing alliances, where firms rely on upstream or downstream partners to build competitive advantage. A vertical complementary strategic alliance would be formed between firms that agree to use their skills and capabilities in different stages of the value chain to create value for both firms. Outsourcing is one example of this type of alliance. With a horizontal complementary strategic alliance, this would be formed when partners agree to combine their resources and skills to create value at the same stage of the value chain. An example of this might be Intel and Micron, which we talked about before. The focus of this was on long-term product development and distribution. The partners may become competitors if they're horizontal, so this requires a great deal of trust between partners. And sometimes these alliances they may be more likely to end as a result. Competition response alliances occur when firms join forces to respond to a strategic action of another competitor. Because these can be difficult to reverse and expensive to operate, strategic alliances are primarily formed to respond to strategic rather than tactical actions. We also have uncertainty reducing alliances that are used to hedge against risk and uncertainty. These alliances are most noticed in fast cycle markets. An alliance may be formed to reduce the uncertainty associated with developing new products or technology standards. When you think of a technology standard, I just want you to think for a moment of the plug that you were in the wall where you put your electronics to power them up. That's an example of a standard. I don't know what company actually invented our two-prong with a ground line plug-in, but that has since been adopted by all. When companies work together, particularly when a standard like that is being developed, they have a better chance of succeeding, therefore reducing uncertainty and seeking a competitive advantage. We also can look at competition reducing alliances. These are created to avoid destructive or excessive competition. There are a couple of examples or a couple of options here. Explicit collusion is when firms directly negotiate production output and pricing agreements to reduce competition. This is illegal in the United States. One example of this would be OPEC, where these countries actually work together with explicit collusion to negotiate and to limit their production output, thereby influencing the market and trying to keep prices and margins high. This is not something that any of you are likely to ever be involved in because this is an illegal practice, at least unless you end up in some other country with very different laws. Tacit collusion, on the other hand, is when firms indirectly coordinate their production and pricing decisions by observing other firms' actions and responses. If you think of a gas station where the manager is constantly looking out the window to just check the price across the street, there can develop essentially an unwritten agreement that when prices change, they change for everybody. And you'll see this in a lot of different industries where the firms aren't specifically working together, but they tend to follow one another in the decisions that are made. Complementary business level alliances, especially those that are vertical, have the greatest probability of creating a sustainable competitive advantage. Again, this is because these firms are not as likely to become competitors. An example, though, of when a firm became a competitor with a vertical alliance partner would be Amazon, which used to rely on other companies exclusively for distribution and delivery, and now they have entered that market. But that is a rare, would be more of an exception than a rule. Horizontal complementary alliances are sometimes difficult to maintain because often they are formed between firms that compete against each other at the same time that they are cooperating. Uncertainty reducing and competition reducing strategies have the lowest probability of creating a sustainable competitive advantage, although there may be some advantage short term. Question number 3, Microsoft started licensing its operating system to IBM in 1980. What type of business level cooperative strategy was that of these that we've just discussed? And then give about a 2 to 3 sentence explanation.